What is going on, guys? This is NGS and welcome back to VEDA. VEDA stands for Vlog Every Day in April, and we are on day 16. Peep that Persona 5 background though. So in today's episode, I guess you can sort of call this a follow-up to an episode I did a couple of weeks ago where I was talking about what I look for in a woman. And I guess this sort of could fall into a series of videos that a good friend of mine does, Terrell, also known as Terrell Game Vlogs, formerly known as the Insane Game Freak, sometimes goes by the Insane... You know, I can't even say that. Can't even say that because my boy Terrell replied to the tag video. So good on you, brother. We took it back to YouTube 2006. Good times. Good times, my friend. If you guys haven't checked out his series known as Societal Discussions, this sort of, I guess, kind of falls into that category where I'm just talking about stuff dealing with societal things, a societal discussion. So excuse this video for being more rambly than usual. I'm just going to be talking about stuff that comes off the top of my head. So, expanding on that, what I look for in a woman video, you've seen that physical looks are one thing, you know that their personality is important, but what if you actually want to get into a relationship with them? What if you actually want to go the next step and you see yourself being with this person for an extended period of time? Now, I do want to stress one thing before I actually get on to this. I am in no way saying that what I'm about to say is the best concrete advice that you could get. I am no Guru Lahima. I do not have the power to help you achieve weightlessness. About the only good thing I'll say about the Legend of Korra, Guru Lahima. But I do want to just talk about my personal experiences, what I've learned in my 21 years of existence, and how it may shape and impact certain people out there. One thing I also want you guys to take away is that there is no one key definitive piece of advice, because there are so many different situations, so many different variables that a person will experience. So one piece of advice is not ever going to be constant. However, you can use, the different opinions out there in some way to shape your judgment and your perception and what you do going forward in making a decision. That's just something I want to get out from the beginning. So the biggest problem that I see a lot of people have nowadays in relationships, why so many people get into the friend zone, why people have problems with texting individuals, the biggest problem that I really see is that they don't define it. They don't know what they're doing. Now, let me explain that. When a person wants to get into a relationship with another individual, more often than not, they just want to hang out with the person. That's it. They don't really want to pursue any romantic things with them. And by that, I mean is they don't want to, or maybe they're afraid of going the next step and actually becoming personal with that individual. When I say that they're afraid of being personal, I mean that they're afraid of doing something that might be perceived as bad because of what society has, I guess, imprinted on us for the longest time. And by that, I'm talking about signals. A lot of things nowadays, for the most part, are nonverbal. There are a lot of signals out there that say a lot more than you actually speaking about them. And this is where I think signals are the biggest downfalls to society and a lot of people, especially young people trying to get into relationships. Because if you do not understand these signals, then you are essentially effed up. And that is the worst part, because by relying so heavily on these signals and how a certain guy will do this and what that really means and how a certain girl will act like this and how that will affect you going forward, it just creates all kinds of really just so much miscommunication going on in the airwaves. And that's the last thing that we need nowadays. We don't need so much miscommunication going on, because that's where one of the biggest problems stems from. You don't really know the individual if you're relying so heavily on these stupid signals. Yes, there is something to be said about, well, if you're with this person, you should understand certain nuances about them and what that means. Yes, that is true. However, for the most part, if you're a dude who's just trying to get into a relationship, or if you're a girl who's trying to get with a dude, and you have to know all of these signals, it's just, it makes things more convoluted than they need to be. I always say that life is extremely short for people to be worrying about nonsense, and you don't need to be worrying about this nonsense, especially so early on in your life. When you have so many fish in the sea to go after, why do you have to spend so much time to understand the little nuances about this person? Why can't you just be more upfront and open about it? And that's where the biggest problem comes from with defining it. Nobody wants to be honest about their intentions. Sometimes in life, you just have to say, hey, you pretty, I want to smash you. Sometimes you have to do that. Whilst other times, a lot of people have to say, hey, we've been hanging out for a couple weeks. I think you're really cool. I really want to take this to the next level. Sometimes you just have to be honest about that. And like I said, that will just create so much more. You'll get farther in life if you're just honest about certain things, because when you're like bottling that stuff up or you're just expecting people to catch on in it, it's just, man, it just makes no sense. Sometimes you just have to be upfront. If you want to smash a girl, go. If you want to be with a girl, go. You just got to say these things. And sometimes that might get you slapped. Other times people might find it endearing. Like I said, so many variables. But people really don't define what they're looking for in the relationships until it's too late, which is how they end up in the friend zone. And I will just say this from personal experience, the friend zone is bullshit. Like, everyone's saying that there's no possible way that, you can get out of the friend zone once you're in the friend zone. If you've gotten to the point where it's so deep in the friend zone where they don't find you attractive or any way more than just a friend, there are two things wrong. Number one, obviously they have no physical attraction to you whatsoever. That's one thing. Number two, you have not made the effort to become more than just a friend. And what I mean by that is you're just treating them like a friend. Now, you don't have to. I hate when people say that, oh, nice guys finish last. Why don't all the girls go after the nice guys instead of all the bad boys and the thugs? What is going on? I will say this. A lot of females nowadays, not all of them, a lot of females are attracted to confidence. And what is something that bad boys have? A disregard for the rules. In some weird stretch of reality, that can be perceived as someone being confident. And what a lot of guys lack when they're talking about the friend zone is that they're not confident enough. They're not confident enough to put themselves forward and highlight the good qualities about themselves, which a lot of people need to start doing. You need to sell yourself better. You need to sell who you are to that individual. You need to be just positive. You don't have to stroke your ego or anything, but you just have to be confident in what you do and in what you say. Be a man of your word. And that's what a lot of people don't do. A lot of people aren't confident in themselves. That's the biggest problem. So they're just treating this person really nice, and to a lot of people that can be perceived as you just want to stay a friend with them, a really good friend. In some cases, that's all people need, just a really good friend. But if you want to be more with that person, you have to start letting them know that. You have to start saying, hey, instead of hanging out, let's go on a date. Some weird stretch of the reality, hanging out and date are two totally different things. It just all depends on the terminology that you use. So that's something that I'll say about the friend zone. Like, if you're so far deep in the friend zone where they'll never find you attractive, you just need to move on, because it's not worth it if they're not seeing you attractive, especially after you've put the effort into it. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be someone who is a complete douchebag to them, but at the same time, you shouldn't be afraid to play around with them. You shouldn't be afraid to get close with them. You shouldn't be afraid to, joke around, sarcastic humor, stuff like that. Because that'll go a long way, instead of just saying, oh, how are you today? How was class? What'd you get on your test? Oh my God, that's awesome. Those are nice qualities, but in some cases, that's not what a dude or female is looking for in a relationship. They want someone who they can really have fun with. So if you're so far deep in the friend zone, you either need to just move on to the next person, because like the old saying goes, there are plenty of fish in the sea, or maybe you just need to work harder. That's just it. But going back onto people who don't know what they want, a lot of people sort of just like stumble into relationships, and in some cases they end up marrying that person and they're together forever. Whereas some people have to plan things out so accordingly. They have to be extremely intricate about things. Like I said, different strokes for different folks, and it's not going to, your situation may differ entirely from another person. Your mileage is obviously going to vary depending on the people you're hanging around with. But one thing is certainly true that we're seeing a lot more nowadays with relationships is we're seeing a lot of people who are very apathetic to the idea of getting together. And more often than not, they fall into two categories. The first category is a person who has been in a relationship very young. A person who, I guess, stumbled into love and they just got burned really bad and they don't see themselves spending a lot of time in another relationship. The second type of person is the person who's never been in a relationship, the person who has been an outside watcher. They've observed so many relationships. They've observed all of their friends and they've seen, the struggles and the hardships and the drama, and they think to themselves, man, that seems like so much effort. Why would I want to get into that in my young life? So both people are not wrong. Both types of people are not wrong because relationships are never easy. They aren't. I mean, this is a person you're spending a good majority of your life with. And of course, it's going to come with some baggage, some drama. Things are going to happen. It doesn't matter even if it's the smallest thing where you guys, click 99% of the time, something might happen. And that's just something you accept in relationships because it's with another person. Things aren't always going to be 100%. Life is never going to be sunshine, gumdrops, or rainbows. There are going to be some hard times, and we have to accept that, because if life was so easy, what point is there in wanting to be better? So I think a lot of people out there who are just don't like the idea of relationships, more often than not, for the first type of person I mentioned, they need to be better judges of character, because those type of people who really get into relationships young, they also don't really know much of their counterpart, the person who they're spending their time with. Usually they're a person they met in passing, met at the library, met at a club, maybe a dope dealer's friend, I don't know. And they really like spending time with this individual, but once they start running game and getting into a relationship with them, you start hearing them say that, oh, you're not the person I remember you were, you aren't the man I thought you were, you aren't the woman I thought you were. You start hearing a lot of those things, which gets me thinking, how in the world is the person not the same, especially considering that you were in a relationship with them for 3 to 6 months, which in my opinion is an extremely short amount of time. So that comes down to you not really knowing the person. Again, it goes back to not knowing what you want. You have to really get to know the person before you decide you want to get in with them. Because once you know the person, it tells you a lot about them. And I'm not saying you have to know what their favorite flavor of gum is, or you got to know what toppings they like on their pizza. That's small anecdotal things. But you have to get to know them with the mask off. You have to get to know their true self. You have to get them to face their true self in front of you. Persona reference for the win. Because we as human beings in our society, I guess this is definitely something that's been imprinted on us, we don't really show our 100% true self to people, especially to strangers. Even people who you're really good friends with, you're always going to hide something. Because there's a difference between really good friends with somebody and somebody you consider family. Family does not just have to be blood. Family could be just a person you are extremely cool with, a person who you would ride or die with to the end. You are your true self around those kind of people. But if you're with a person who you've never met and you're just scared of opening up to them, that is something that needs to be taken into account going forward with these relationships. You have to get to know them. You have to get them to face their true self and be comfortable around you with the little thing, the smallest things, like just the little weird things that you would not expect to be a big deal, right? Just certain things can make a huge impact on that person and how they perceive you. And it's always going to be a learning experience. So you have to get to know them on that level. I'm not saying you have to literally know every single thing about them, but you have to get to know their true 100% personality. And once you can see their personality, you start to make judgments on them and you see if you really want to be with this long term. So that's something I definitely do see a lot of. A lot of people they don't define what they want. They don't know what they want. More often than not, they get into relationships too early and they're burned and they don't know they don't know if they really want to go forward into it again. And in another time, people are just, not confident enough to go after the things they want because they fear rejection. Rejection is something that I think internally we all are afraid of, because who likes being rejected? But at the same time, you can't live your life thinking that everybody will like you, everybody will love you, that you are just 100% perfect, a perfect little snowflake, mama's little champ. You can't, because in life it is going to get tough. It's going to get hard, and you are going to be rejected from certain things, be it a job, be it a person, failing at a video game, something like that. Rejection comes in many forms. But you have to pick yourself up and keep moving. It's not, I know, as simple as just brushing it off by your sleeve, but you have to adapt and learn to become a stronger and better person. Granted, not everybody's going to like you for whatever reason. That's just a given. But if you can use those experiences and channel that into becoming a stronger, better person of yourself, you will start to see that those things don't bother you as much as they used to. You will start to see that you're realizing what your weaknesses are. And then once you realize those, you start getting rejected less because you're honing your craft. You're becoming a better, stronger individual. So when you see that you got rejected once at 14 and it was devastating and everybody in the school knew, and it's even more incriminating nowadays with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You could literally post something that happens at 10 a.m. and by, sixth period, everybody in the school knows about it. That's just scary. I'm glad my generation, I sound like an old fart now, even though I'm only 21. I'm so glad that we were coming in on the tail end of that whole Twitter, Facebook blow up. I mean, Facebook was still big. Twitter was on the uprise, but it didn't start getting huge. Like everybody had it until, the early 2011, 12, 13 is when it started getting huge for like the younger generation. I'm talking 13 years old. But most definitely, man, yeah. So you need to have confidence in life. You need to sell yourself. That's what you need to do. And it doesn't matter that you are going to get rejected by a person. You don't need to dote on that. You don't need to worry. You don't need to be like your life is never going to move on. Because you're going to end up, for lack of a better term, you're going to kill yourself over that. And it's not a fun feeling. It really is not to just be thinking about that because you start thinking you're inferior and no one's ever going to like you because this person rejected you. Listen, you don't need that in life. There is somebody for everybody. There is. You might think that now, being 18 years old, but trust me, there is somebody for everybody. So yeah, man, you definitely have to be more confident. You have to know what you're looking for and not worry about the little things in life like signals. You have to learn to live your life accordingly. Because life is short. We don't need to worry about all these minute little things such as when a person texts back. That's another thing I'm going to talk about right now. I'm talking about text messaging. Oh, God, text messaging. Text messaging is a great form of communication, but like every form of communication, there's always going to be miscommunication. For whatever reason, texting now has its own language. Texting now has its own form of signals. Like, how this is possible, I do not know. But with a lot of people and text messaging, my God, everybody's making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. What is texting? Texting is a form of communication. Why do people communicate? To get in contact with somebody. That's what it should be at the end of the day. You shouldn't have to worry about the 3-day rule. You just met a girl, you thought she's awesome, and you gotta wait 3 days to text her back. You shouldn't have to worry about when you text them back throughout the day. She texted you 2 minutes later. You text her 4 minutes later, because that's double the time, and then you triple it every time. That stuff infuriates me beyond belief. And the sad thing is people abide by that. There are articles and studies done for this thing. And I'm just thinking to myself, is this really what we're focusing on in life? Are we really focusing on how to text a person so they'll text you back? Are we really focusing on that? Why cannot we be more honest with people and just be upfront? We can't just go up to say, hey, I really like you. You want to get together this weekend? Maybe grab something to drink? I don't know. You have to really be like a beat around the bush and all this stuff. And it's just annoying. It seriously is. So if you have a person, male or female, this does not discriminate the genders, who is taking, funny enough, I just got a text message. Who is it from? I'm hungry. Why are you telling me this? It's a female I'm talking to. If you have a person who is literally to the point where it's getting frustrating to you that they're not replying to your text in a timely manner, do not buy that bullcrap that they are busy, because they are not. Unless you have an extreme case of, I don't know, you're going through surgery or you're taking a test that's like 3 hours long. If they don't reply to you in a timely manner, which I'm talking a timely manner is 1 to 2 hours, at most 2 hours. If they're not replying to you, that is complete BS. It is time to move on. I'm not even just going to say time to move on. It's time to focus your attention onto something else. Because if you're going to spend a lot of time texting them and they're not texting back, believe me, they've seen your message. They just choose not to reply to it. And for whatever reason, they're probably pulling that whole texting lingo, language, mumbo jumbo. Unless you are stuck on a deserted island for 5 years and you've seen some shit and you come back to this world to protect your city, you must become something else. Unless that shit happens, there is no reason that a person should be sending you a text message and continuing the conversation that you started 3 days later. There is no reason that should be happening. There isn't. It's either, hey, I'm sorry, I'm gonna test, I'll text you back later, or text me back later. What happened to common courtesy? What the fuck happened to, hey, I'm busy, talk later. Hey, I can't text right now, talk later. What happened to just letting people know this shit? What really did? Why do we leave people hanging? Why? It's like, hey dude, you want to hang out? No reply. 3 days later, oh man, sorry I couldn't hang out, shit happened. I'm like, 72 hours? It took you 72 hours to reply? And I'm not even just talking about relationships. I'm just talking about common fucking courtesy. Nobody in the world is that busy. They just focus their priorities on something else. I will just say that. I've been there. I've texted females and they've replied to conversations 3 days later. And I'm just wondering to myself, how the fuck is this feasibly possible? I used to get really pissed off at that stuff. I really did. But then something just turned on in my head and I was just like, oh, they don't find me interesting. And that's perfectly fine. Not everybody's going to find you interesting. And that is fine. Okay? That is fine. Just focus your attention onto something else. Believe me, you were going to save so much time, man. So much time. I wish I did. But yes, the theme of this video is everybody needs to be more open and upfront about the things that they want. We have to stop focusing on this signal bullshit language because life is fucking short. Don't worry about this. What happened to the days of just being honest and all this? I don't know. I've been rambling for who knows how long. But yeah, man, this shit needs to stop. People need to be more confident. People need to text back in a timely fashion. If they don't like you, they don't like you. Move on to the next one. That's all you got to do. Don't worry about them. As much as they would like you to worry about them, don't do it. Don't do it, man. Don't do it. Don't fucking do it. Man, I just really got to cool down right now because like because this shit just really does frustrate me, man. It frustrates me to the point I want to kick something. I want to kick this empty can of Monster. Man. It is really annoying. There was one thing I really wanted to say that it's on the tip of my tongue, but I don't know what it was. I really don't. Of course, your mileage may vary. That's obviously something I want to say, but if I think about it, I'll probably type it down below in the comment section. Whew. Anyways, this is the end of VEDA Day 16 societal rambly discussion thingy. I'm in GS. Catch you guys tomorrow.